Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forex for Beginners. It's 6 o'clock, so we will go on and get started. Hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday. So again, welcome to Forex for Beginners. We host this platform. We are IOP, which is Domo's group, Domo 30's group. And we just host these extra calls just to see if you guys have any questions to assist you in your education. And outside of Damo's group, we're part of Coach Max and Ryan DeFreitas Dynasty Exchange group. So be sure to, in order to be plugged into their Telegram and Facebook groups, make sure you look for an email. It was sent out to all active members, and really good information and calls there. Coach Max is doing an opportunity call tonight at 8. So we can plug into that, send any prospects if we have them. And, you know, there's normally a full schedule within IOP. There's a full schedule within Dynasty Exchange. And of course, the Epic back office and all of the live classes there. So lots to plug into. We want to try to keep this call till about maybe a half hour, since there are so many weekly calls going on. So we're going to mark up a chart or two tonight and show you how to we're going to keep it really basic, but really basic in terms of how to enter a trade. And, oh, before I forget, this class is recorded. And in the chat is a link to, I'll post it again, my YouTube site. So normally by tomorrow lunchtime, I'll have this call posted there on my site, and I'll post it within IOP as well, Impact Over Profits. So I'll go over something. We're going to mark up some charts, and you guys come off mute. If you have a question, type it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. So let me share my trading view screen, and we will jump right into it. I think I already am. So let's see, give my screen a chance to catch up. All right, great. So you are looking at my trading view. And if the colors seem a little different, it's because I right-clicked on settings, and here under symbol, you can customize your candle colors. So typically green is used for your up candles, your bullish candles. So I have sort of a teal blue here. And then typically you see red for your bearish or down candles, and I'm using purple. So that's where you can customize your chart with colors of your choosing. So we are looking at Euro USD, EU. And we're going to start on the 1 hour time frame, and we're going to approach this as if, you know, it's our chart time. Hopefully by now you have 1 to 3 pairs that you're choosing to follow. EU is a good one. If we have time, we'll also look at USD JPY or UJ. So let's say it's the start of our day and we want to pull up our chart. So here's where we type in the pair that we want to look at, EU, Euro USD. And we're going to start at the 1 hour time frame. Now, what I want to do is approach the chart from 3 different perspectives. We'll start here on the hour as if we want to intraday trade. Intraday trade means we typically get in and out of the trade the same day, maybe a few hours. So typically the 1 hour chart will give us a lot of a good, decent size amount of pips, but we can get in and out of the trade the same day. Now, some people prefer to swing trade, and that is maybe you don't have a lot of time to devote to the charts. Maybe you want to spend some time looking at your setups, set a trade on Monday, maybe check it every day, and then close it out by Friday. So for that, you would go to a higher time frame, maybe the 4 hour. And then those of us who like to pip and dip, which is generally me. I do intraday and some scalping. We're going to drop down to maybe the 5 or the 15-minute chart. And we're going to take the same approach, but it's just going to be the higher the time frame, the more pips you get, the lower the time frame, the smaller amount of pips, but you're in and out. Scalping can be minutes. Okay, so that's our game plan for today. So looking at the hour, this is the hour time zone. So the first thing we're going to do, and the indicator here on my chart, this light blue EMA is the 50. So let's just put that on the chart so you'll know. So here is the 50 EMA. Very common indicator. And if you have the free version of TradingView, you do get one indicator. And let me show you this indicator, 4XLG EMA setup. We really like this indicator because you get a lot of bang for just one indicator. So if I click on settings, I literally can have all of these different EMAs on my chart. And if I go to style, just by clicking the check mark, that shows all the additional EMAs. Okay, we're going to keep things very simple today and just use the 50 EMA, which is, it has a nickname of the water. But I wanted you to know that if you do have the free plan, which only gives you one EMA, one indicator, this one really gives you a lot more than just one. Okay, so we're going to keep it clean and simple and just use our 50 EMA. So you guys know the general principle. When price or when the candles are above the EMA, we are buying. And when the candles are below our 50 EMA, we are selling. But before we jump into that, let's put some zones on the chart. So I like to use, it's the second one down, trend line tools. I'm going to click on the horizontal line. And I'm going to mark this area. I'm on a laptop, computer, PC. So I'm going to do Control Z and Control V to just copy and paste. Now, when you want to drag and click on in TradingView, you have to go back to the cross. So now I can select it and choose this area. I'm going to do Control V again. Maybe highlight this area. I'll go through it first and then I'll show you why I marked the zones that I did. And you can tell that, you know, the lines that you choose are somewhat, the zones that you choose are somewhat subjective. We'll go through it in a minute. And let's do one more, maybe here. Okay, so let's do maybe one more up top because you want to have more zones closer to where your current price is, maybe there. So the goal of these horizontal lines is to mark the areas on the chart where a lot of the tops of the candles are reaching towards. So if you look at this zone here, let's use the arrow to show all the points where there's a wick there that touches it. There's a candle body that touches the line there. Oh, I think my drawing tool is selected, so it may still work. Yeah. There, a wick touches it. You can see the tops of These candles here are resting on that line. And then another reason that we chose this horizontal line is that the top, the bottoms of these candles are resting on it. Okay, so let's get out of drawing mode and let's delete that one. Select my crosshair. Now I can move these around. So for these areas, this zone is serving as resistance. Think about it as your hands are up and you can't reach through the ceiling. So this zone for these candles here, these three, it's the resistance because the top of the candle just can't quite reach through it. Whereas these candles here on the far right, this zone is serving as support. Think about standing on the floor. Your feet can't go through the floor. So the bottoms of these candles can't quite make it through. You can see some of them wicked to the bottom, but for the most part, the candle bodies themselves, the bodies are the rectangular parts, are standing on this zone. So that's how we mark up our chart. And there's no, perfect way to do it. Feel free to take your favorite chart and mark up your support and resistance and post it in the IOP charts, and we'll take a look at it. Some people mark more zones than others. Some keep them spaced out. It's really, at your discretion. There's no perfect way to mark up a chart. So play around with it, get comfortable with it. And again, we used trend line tools, and I used the horizontal line just to keep it simple. There is a way that you can use a rectangle and mark more of a zone. And so you have that option as well. So we're on the 1 hour time frame. We've marked up our zones. We have our 50 EMA on the chart. So now we can begin to ask the question, where is price trending? What is price doing right now? And how can I enter, or are there any trade setups that I see? So what I'm going to do, we're going to focus on the latter part of the chart. And you can see here that price is going in an uptrend. And we want to pay attention to when price moves through the 50 EMA. So, starting from here, price was definitely broke through and we were in sell territory. Here, price broke through the EMA. And now this is what should get our attention, because we're going to use a really basic, just 50 EMA strategy where, and let's write this down. Above the 50 EMA equals buy, below the 50 EMA equals sell. So we're going to keep it super, super simple. We pulled up our chart, we marked a few zones, we have our 50 EMA, and now this is a really interesting area because now the candles, which we call price has broken through the 50 EMA. So now we're in buy territory. So from here to here, we are in buy territory. So let's talk about, well, where can we actually take the buy? And this is where our zones come in. So price breaks through, comes back and tests the 50 EMA. And now we have some decisions to make. My favorite places, and it's really recommended when possible, to take a trade from or as close to a zone as possible. Why is that? We talked about it a little bit last week. So let's say price broke through the 50 EMA, gave us a nice retest, meaning it came back and touched the EMA. So now we are pretty sure that we're in buy territory. But if I had a choice, let's talk about taking a buy either here at, let's use a up candle. So I'm going to get rid of these. Let's talk about where could we take the best entry. So when I got the break and retest, here would be one option. And I want to propose to you that perhaps a better option is here. So we have option A with the first black candle, or near the second black candle. The reason that I like this option, so let's put this arrow in blue. The reason that I like this second entry better than the first one is that this first entry is literally in the middle of our zone. And so if we entered here, where would we put our stop loss? Well, one train of thought is you can put your stop loss at below the previous candle. So there's an option. But, you know, one thing that I've been taught and that I've learned, price treats its zones as a point of safety. It's almost like home base. So price loves to retrace and go back and revisit the zones. So what I like about entering on this blue candle after price breaks through and maybe retest this zone is that I could enter my stop loss. And those of us who have been keeping up with, well, let's do a horizontal line, with the trap strategy, with the 2.0, as we back test and turn in our homework to Coach Max and Sham, we are marking our stop loss with red dotted lines. So let's just talk about that as well. So we can mark the line as red. And if I click on this line, here's where I can use either dashed or dotted. So I think Coach Max has instructed us to use the dashed line. So there's just a quick tip on how to get a red dashed line for our Trap 2.0 markups. We're not going to go over Trap 2.0 today, but I thought I'd just mention that. So for my entry here, I can set my stop loss on the other side of the zone. So the closer that you enter your trade, the closer to the zone you are, the smaller your stop loss has to be. And that gives you a low risk. And then you can set your TP based on zones or, you know, whatever your criteria is. So just know that if you entered the trade here off the blue EMA, you know, if let's duplicate this stop loss. The best stop loss is probably on the other side of the zone. And so you can tell we have a much bigger stop loss for this trade with the black arrow than we do if we trade here closer to the zone. All right, so let's recap. We pulled up EU, we're on the 1 hour time frame. We marked up our zones, our support and resistance lines, and now we're looking at our 50 EMA. Once price broke above, that caught our attention because now we are in buy territory. We thought it was safer to wait till price breaks and retest this next zone. Here's our stop loss. Now we're in the buy trade. Price has go straight to the next zone. And let's take a look at how many pips it is from this zone to here. So for our TP, we are showing, I believe we're using green. So if that was our take profit, and then I believe our entry, we're showing in blue. So that would have been about there at that candle. All right, so based on, I'm gonna get rid of this one here so we're not confused. Based on an entry here, blue shows our entry, green is going to be our take profit. And I raised it just above that zone just so we can see it. And there's our stop loss. So if we wanted to trade zone to zone, let's see how many pips that would give us. I like to measure pips the old fashioned way. So I'm going to pull out my text. So right there at that green, at our zone, price is at 1.2110. So let's write that down, 1.2110. And where we entered here in blue, price was at 1.2090. We do simple subtraction. And that's going to be basically 110 minus 90, which is roughly 20 pips minus our spread. EU tends to have, based on your broker, a relatively low spread. So probably more like 18 or 19 pips. But one trade took about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 hours, because each of these candles on the hour chart represents 1 hour. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, roughly 8 hours to get 20 pips. But the cool part is, you know, once you set your parameters, you can literally walk away from that trade, walk away from that setup, and then just come back to profit. Any questions on how we entered the chart and trade it from zone to zone? Now, you don't have to stop at that zone. That's a really bullish candle. So maybe you entered one position and that was your TP1. Okay, so let's write that down. So maybe that was TP1. Let's put that in green. Let's click on it. I'm just going to copy it. And so for the second zone, maybe that could be our TP2. And maybe we're happy with that. You can tell at that point, price begins to pull back. It's pulling back to the zones. It's actually pulling back and retesting the 50. If you were still in this trade, hopefully you're moving your stop loss and profit. But once price closes below the 50, that's typically a signal that we want to get out of the buy. Now, in this case, price broke right through and gave us another opportunity. But does everyone see how we can use the 50 EMA for buys and sells? Now, let's do this same example. Let me check the chart. Awesome, awesome. Before we go up to the 4 hour, let's have some fun and drop down to like maybe the 15-minute. So now I'm on the 15-minute time frame. I'm going to delete these lines and go a little faster. I want to take our time on the 1 hour so that you can see it. But on this 15-minute, so, you know, areas like this, let me put that in a rectangle. Areas like this, we're not too concerned about. Where'd it go? Let's do it again. We're not too concerned about consolidation areas where price is below the 50, above it, you know, below, it's just kind of hovering in consolidation. Price is moving sideways, it's in consolidation. We don't make as much money in consolidation. Now, compare that to this area here. Once price made a clean break, now we're in a trending market. Now we're in buy territory. Here is where we can really make some money. Now, if you're trading off the 15-minute, feel free to add additional zones. Sometimes smaller trades feel a little safer. So I'm just gonna right click on that, go back to settings. We're gonna go back to our black solid line. There we go. So I'm gonna do Control C, Control V, and I'm just gonna add a few more zones so that from zone to zone isn't so big. Now this is, different places where you can put the zone, but I'm gonna choose there. So now as a scalper, I feel a little bit better trading zone to zone. So when you're on a smaller time frame, you can add in more zones just to make you a little bit more comfortable. But can you see price broke through the 50 EMA here. And when it got to this zone, we did not get a pullback. Price just broke through and went straight to the next zone. So that's okay. It depends on your risk level. If you want to enter, while that candle is moving, that's a little risky. We like to wait for the candle to close. So let's talk about the candle closing. Here on TradingView, can you see this timer here? It's telling me that on the most recent candle, there are 2 minutes left. So typically on a 15-minute chart, each candle is going to take 15 minutes. It's really not advisable to take the trade while the clock is running down on that candle. You really want it to close so you can see the full picture, because if you're entering a buy, you want to make sure it's a bullish candle, right? And sometimes candles can start going up, but then they come all the way back down by the time it closes. So you want to pay attention to this and wait for that candle to close. So in this case, we really didn't get a good entry if we were trading zone to zone. Okay, but just know that all of this area price is well above the 50, and lots of opportunities to buy here. And then on the higher time frame, if we go up to the 4 hour, get rid of these arrows. Let's take a look at a sell. So notice that price broke through the 50 EMA here and closed below it. So all of this area here is a great sell opportunity, whether you want to jump in after the candle closes, after the 50 EMA, or again, just look for an area that's close to a zone and take it zone to zone, maybe 2 zones if you're feeling comfortable. Yeah, and that's it. Again, if you got into a sell anywhere in this area, once price begins to close above the 50, if you are still in the trade, that's your signal to get out, because now we're in an uptrend for a while, and then we come back down. So it's about 6:28. What questions do you guys have? Do you feel like you can pull up a chart and do something like this? Okay, let's see. There's a question in the chart. Yes, so I marked up the chart and entered on that same or said time frame. Many educators talk about marking up the chart on a higher time frame, such as the 4 hour, and taking the entry on the 1 hour if you're intraday. The question is, can I mark up on the 1 hour instead of the 4 hour? Absolutely. The 1 hour is like a warm and fuzzy kind of time frame. It's not too big, it's not too small, but you can absolutely go down, Nicole, to the 15-minute or the 5-minute to look for your entry. So here's a really good reason to do that. Let's look for this area. Let's do that. So let's say we're on the 1 hour, and I'm going to highlight this area here. because we want to look for a good entry on our sell. So let's come down to the 15-minute and find that rectangle, find that same area. Here we go. So I'm going to go down one more time frame. Let's go down to the 5-minute and let's see if it can give us a good entry. A lot of times when you go down to the smaller time frame, you can find the pullback that you need, that you're looking for to enter the trade. So let's see. Here we go. See this blue candle here? We did not see this on the 5-minute. So if we were looking for a break and then a pullback, we could enter here. It's sort of in the middle of the zone. It's not my favorite setup because to be safe, our stop loss would have to be on the other side of the zone. But the point of this example is when you go to the smaller time frames, sometimes you can find that pullback candle to give you a better entry. So Nicole, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So, the cool thing is what we did applies to, UJ and GU and everyone's favorite pair, even, indices and crypto, but we're not going to talk about those on a beginner call. But this is, if I were to give homework, and if Neri were here, she would say, yes, give homework. So the homework is pull up a pair. Don't be afraid. Mark your support and resistance lines, your zones, whichever term you're more comfortable with. Put the 50 EMA on it and begin to look at it and see, where would I go for buys? Where would I go for sells? And, if that makes you nervous, use the arrows and without even taking a trade, just mark it on your chart. If I were thinking about a trade, this is where I would get in. Come back to your chart and see what happens. As you build your confidence that way, go and demo. Actually put in your stop loss, your take profit, and your entries, and that's how you build confidence. So I wanted to just go over something really basic with everyone. We have so much to learn in our Forex journey, and sometimes it's just good to hear something simple that you can kind of do today. So hopefully this was helpful. Are there any other questions before we wrap it up? Hi, Camila. Do you have a question for us? Feel free to come off mute or post your question in the chat. Either way. But hey there.
Tasha, this is David. I just want to thank you for your time. I'm on your sessions every now and then, but every time I get on, there's always a takeaway, and I just appreciate the time that you give us and sharing the knowledge that you have. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much, David. Thank you. Glad to help. So Camille's question is, can you go over locating your stop loss? And yeah, there are different schools of thought with your stop loss, because ultimately it depends on your account size. If we're really, really honest, someone with a larger account can be way more flexible with their stop loss than those starting, with a smaller account where the stop loss is everything, right? The saying is you want to live to trade another day. You want to fail fast. That's something that I wish I had learned earlier in my trading career. It's so mentally, it's better to fail fast in a trade versus being in a situation where you don't want to give up on the trade and you keep changing your stop loss and you keep making it bigger and you keep making it bigger. Here's why you don't want to do that too many times during a trade. Each time you make that stop loss bigger, your risk to reward gets worse and worse and worse. What started out as maybe a 1-to-1, and by 1-to-1 we mean you're risking 20 pips to gain 20 pips. But now what happens? You're in a trade and you're 15 points in, and you know in 5 pips you're going to hit your stop loss. So there's a tendency to say, well, let me give it 10 more pips. So now you're risking 30 pips to get 20, and price is not working with you. And now you're risking 40 pips to get 20. It would have been so much easier. Take the 20 pip stop loss. And I'm preaching to myself as I say this, take the quick loss and move on. Because if you have a small account and you're only in a few trades, you can't make money if you're trying to manage and you're hoping and praying for price to turn around. It's not good mentally, and you can't make money while you're doing that. Take the quick loss, learn that lesson, and then move on to the next trade so that you can be more profitable. But to answer that question about stop loss, there are different rules of thought. So let's say I entered here because I got my my pullback candle. It's not the best entry because it's in the middle of the zone. But if you, and we're going to use our new Coach Max guidelines, because this is how we're going to mark up our charts for Trap 2.0. If I entered here, right click, blue dashed line. If I entered here, then one school of thought says the previous zone, and I'm just going to mark it slightly above it so you can see it. We're going to mark our stop loss in red. Then there's my stop loss. And so if I'm trading zone to zone, and then I think we're marking our TPs in green, that's a little bit better than a 1-to-1 ratio. Not bad, nothing bad with 1-to-1 ratios. Now, another school of thought is wherever you enter, set your stop loss at the previous candle's high, which would be pretty much in the same spot above this previous candle's high. So that's pretty much the zone in that case. So those are two ways that you can use to choose your stop loss. All right, everyone. Well, I will put this recording on my YouTube site and post it in the IOP chats by tomorrow morning. Here's our homework. Post your favorite charts in the study group or discussion group, and let's take a look at some possible trades. All right. See you guys next time. Good night.